Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, TIRCP, Cycle 7 Draft Guidelines Workshop for Southern California agencies. I'm Marty Greenstein. I am the Deputy Secretary for Communications here at CalSTA, and I'm joined by Chad Edison, the Chief Deputy Secretary for Rail and Transit at CalSTA, and Anthony Cerna, who's also part of our team. And we are going to get started very soon with a presentation followed by Q&A. The Q&A function that we're using in WebEx can be found in the bottom right corner of your platform with 3 dots. If you click on those 3 dots, the Q&A will come up. So it's a little hard to find, but if you find that, you could type in your questions. We will get to them following the presentation. There's also, you could email questions or comments to us as well. That email address will be provided at the end of this presentation, and again after we wrap this up. This is being recorded and it will be available on our website later this week. And with that, I will turn it over to Chad.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm going to go through an overview of our draft guidelines and give some background on our program and then take questions. So first of all, we'll go through the guidelines themselves, talk about background, funding, and key considerations. Then we'll talk about the timeline for our final guidelines and awards and take questions and provide feedback on some of those questions. Next slide, please. Many of you, I'm sure, are already aware of TIRCP as a program. It receives its funding primarily from the Transportation Improvement Fee revenues in SB1, as well as a 10% Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund appropriation that is continuous. Since 2015, $10 billion has been awarded to 132 projects throughout the state. And our program has a specific focus on priority populations. Almost every project has over the last 9 years has contributed direct, meaningful, and assured benefits to disadvantaged communities, low-income communities, and low-income households. Our program focus includes making sure that each area of the state has a chance to receive funding from our program. We have a geographic equity requirement to make sure we have balance in our awards. And so that's kind of the overall background. On the next slide, I'll give some examples of projects in Southern California that have received funding in our past awards. The Core Capacity and System Integration Project for LA Metro, on the Low Sand Corridor, the San Diego Bridge Replacement, Double Track Special Events Platform Project down by Del Mar, the Metrolink Double Track into the Moreno to Paris Valley, the Paris Valley line section, that is also received funding. On the zero emission and the bus side of things, we have invested in Pasadena transit system, in the transit enhancements for zero emission with San Diego MTS. We've worked with Culver City and Santa Monica on fleet to support service expansion. And these are just a few examples. If you go to our website and go to the subject page for TIRCP, you will find the full list of projects that we have funded on that webpage. Go to the next project, the next slide. Our statutory requirements here focus on doing 5-year programs that fund a small number of transformative projects that improve the statewide network and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have 4 statutory primary evaluation criteria focusing on both reducing emissions and increasing ridership growth. Every project has to do both of those as part of the project. Achieving integrated service, and then also improving safety, having safety benefits from your project. Secondary evaluation criteria focus a lot on co-benefits. This gets at some of the disadvantaged community benefits, the geographic balance, housing and jobs considerations, achieving your broader sustainable community goals. And so that is really the focus of our evaluation when you put in your applications, those criteria. In Cycle 7, we have some new aspects to our guidelines. Most of it looks a lot like Cycle 5, which was our last competitive round from the traditional TRCP sources of funding. The funding that came out in 2023, the SB 125 funding, which is now being allocated to RTPAs around the state, that funding can be used as match for competitive TRCP projects. And we consider it local match for the purposes of project evaluation. So as you're prioritizing and programming that funding, if you are setting it aside either as a pledge or as a funding to an early phase of a project you're coming into us for, it can be used as match in both of those situations. For cycle 7, our current estimate is that there will be at least $900 million available for award. In addition, there is $102 million reserved for Southern California carried over from cycle 6, which was our 2023 set of awards. The FRA corridor identification program is important if you have a project that has benefit to intercity rail. In those cases, we have information on how to make sure that you demonstrate those benefits of your project to intercity service and reference how it is tied into the corridor identification program process, which in many cases around the state is being facilitated by Caltrans as we work with FRA to go through the process of doing service development plans and identifying priority projects in intercity rail corridors. We pretty much cover the whole state rail plan with corridor identification that is referenced through these FRA awards, either to Caltrans or another agency, public agency. On to the next slide. Anti-displacement co-benefits that are tied to showing how you have anti-displacement strategies in place are already part of the evaluation criteria. Here on page 19, we are proposing some additional language which will focus on providing a narrative demonstrating the understanding of displacement vulnerabilities related to your projects and how to minimize those impacts. And one thing I'll point out here is that anti-displacement efforts that are part of implementing a capital project are eligible costs under TRCP. So if you have the need to spend money to make sure that you do these strategies well as part of implementing your project, you can build that into your project budget and ask us to provide some of the funding for those efforts. On to the next slide. For applicants that are considering their submitting an application, do focus on where your projects provide benefit to priority populations, and then also understand how we look at geographic equity. Geographic equity is something that we look at within regions and across regions. We do it within each funding cycle, but we also look at underrepresentation in past funding cycles. And that could be a consideration for giving additional funding to a particular region of the state. The other thing to note here is that be realistic about how much your region can get in terms of geographic equity. If you're a project in the Central Valley or the North State or Central Coast, you probably shouldn't expect to get 50% of the program funding. If you're in the Bay Area, you shouldn't be expecting to get 80% of the money from our program. These are, we have the need to have a balance in our program, and just consider the fact that the size of your request should be scalable, so that so we can at least pick the elements of your project that perform the best if you have a good project, but we can't afford the kind of scale that you're proposing. Go on to the next slide, please. In terms of clean technology, we have a lot of good projects that come in and are making investment in clean fleet facilities and network improvements. That could include replacing your aging vehicle fleet with zero-emission vehicles. It could include the fueling or charging infrastructure in your facilities that need to be modified in order to support your clean fleet of the future. In order to demonstrate increased ridership, many of these investments also need to do some other qualifying activities. These are not the only ones, but some examples of that are making transit priority investments that'll let the vehicles that are operating on your system run faster on your system to then deliver, faster trips to customers, growing that ridership, and also allow some of those additional hours to be redeployed into increasing service when your current runs are faster than they were before. In addition, contactless payment through whichever mechanism you use to do that can lead to higher ridership, and we provide guidance on how to model that if you're using programs like the California Integrated Travel Program to do that. And then integration efforts where you tie more than one system together through improved connections that increase ridership, investments that achieve that alongside your vehicle replacements, maybe companion projects that allow your overall application to receive that benefit of having both increased ridership and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. On the housing and jobs front, transit supportive land use decisions often will support a stronger ridership forecast. And so a couple things to note here. You may model additional ridership if you have entitled housing projects that are within a half a mile of transit stations. And if they're going to be delivered within the time period of the useful life of your project, that would be a way to support ridership growth in your projections. In addition, if you link housing with key destinations, and you can document how the supportive housing policies would lead to higher ridership on your system. How you document the benefits that communities get out of your projects, showing any of the workforce development efforts that are companions to your projects. These are all aspects that we can both participate in funding as well as you can increase the benefits of your projects by demonstrating what is happening in these arenas. In some cases, private investment has come in that has made some of these investments as well, and that can increase the matching funds that you have in your overall application. Next slide. Agencies have to report on their job co-benefits as well as the greenhouse gas benefits of their projects. And annual reporting on outcomes generally continues for 3 years after projects become operational. Next slide. Our overall timeline on the program is the workshops that we have today. Further comments by email can be accepted through April 18th. Guidelines adoption and call for projects is scheduled for next Tuesday. And then we have a set of optional virtual consultation meetings that we will be scheduling between May 13th and May 23rd. For those that are interested, these have generally been very helpful with agencies that can present their basic project concept and ask questions and clarifications necessary to prepare their application. Applications will be due on July 23rd. And we expect to make our award announcements on October 23rd. Overall here, the guidelines comments can be submitted by email after this session if you don't ask the questions during the Q&A. And that's trcpcomments@dot.ca.gov. Please do that by the 18th. And then if you have general questions, even after that comment period is closed, or if you'd like to make sure you're on the TIRCP mailing list for future announcements, please send an email to that same address, trcpcomments@dot.ca.gov. With that, I will turn it back to Marty, and we're going to go ahead and get started on the Q&A. So can you provide some instructions, Marty?
Yes. So thank you, Chad. So we will now start the Q&A portion. As I said, when this workshop kicked off, it's a little hard to find, but if you go to the bottom right corner and there'll be 3 dots down there. If you click on that, you'll be able to find the Q&A and can type your questions in to the space, and we can answer them as they come in now. So we will open up the Q&A. Up, first one just came in. Anthony, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Question here from Aaron from SB CAG. Regarding local match, would you recommend agencies include anticipated FTA funding from competitive grant programs that may fund some portion of the project?
Yes, it is very common that agencies that are applying for FTA funding include that as part of the match that they expect. That may result in you receiving a contingent award that is contingent on receiving that funding, but our money can be committed and programmed to your project before FTA makes its commitment, and often is helpful in receiving their commitment of funding down the road. So we can, if you are far enough along in your project development, we can provide funding that can be matched to FTA funding that you expect to be receiving. There are specific instructions there. So if you have a project example, not necessarily here in the guidelines workshop, but when you get to that technical consultation, that would be a good time to clarify how what you might need to do on your specific project. So I'd recommend coming in for a technical consultation in that May 13th to 23rd period.
We have another question here. Will any of this funding be available for projects with prior TIRCP funding that are experiencing shortfalls, particularly the 102 million SoCal carryover?
So we will look into addressing that question with further feedback by the time we do our call for projects. This funding, the 102 million, was part of the new project funding that was available in cycle 6. And these guidelines cover new projects at this point. And so the $102 million comes from cycle 6 in the category that was reserved for new projects during that period of time. But we will provide further feedback by the time we get our call for projects out.
Got another question here from Louise. Is the TIRCP available for both new buses and refurbishment opportunities?
So TIRCP is available for investment in buses. It can include refurbishments. However, if you are doing refurbishments of vehicles, that needs to be coupled with other activities that increase ridership. So if you're just refurbishing, say, a diesel bus and using that further in service, that may not get you very much in terms of benefits, and you'd have to have other project elements that demonstrate increased ridership. If you are doing a zero emission conversion of a vehicle, which we've sometimes seen, or if you're doing a refurbishment of an existing zero emission vehicle, again, you need to demonstrate what aspects of your program of projects include increased ridership for that to be part of the, maybe you're refurbishing older fleet and putting it into additional service that is going to run on more routes. So there's different ways of demonstrating that increase in ridership, but you need to do that, not just replace or refurbish what you already have and run the same service.
I got another question here, clarifying the funding categories in cycle 7 compared to cycle 6.
The funding categories for cycle 7 are the same as cycle 5. So we will look at the specific reference. I'm not sure what page that's on, but we can take a look at it. But we only have the this is a traditional TIRCP round. This is a round for new projects. And there are not project development only categories available. That was the cycle 6 only scenario that was possible.
We have a question here from Valerie on the clarification on geographic equity. Can you clarify what was meant by not asking for 50% share in Central Valley and for 80% of the Bay Area?
That's not a share of the project budget. That is a, if you were suggesting that you would get $450 million out of $900 million in the Central Valley, that is highly unlikely given the degree of geographic balance. Or if you're in the Bay Area and you're asking for, you were asking for 700 million out of the 900 million. That was what those examples were meant to illustrate. That we have to have some geographic balance in how we make our awards, and I was using those as kind of extreme examples of, but we have seen those kinds of requests in the past. And so I just wanted to be clear that we can't put that much money into a part of the state that is vastly different in its share of population.
Might need a bit more clarification on this next question, but Louise is asking, engineering costs, can that also be included for new technologies?
Yeah, we're going to need that one to be further clarified.
Yeah.
It's not sure what the engineering costs or the new technologies are referring to.
Yeah, Louise, if you can put additional clarification in the chat, that would be helpful. Sharon is asking if applicants need an improved housing element.
Our guidelines speak specifically to the elements of housing that need to be addressed. Just check something here. We certainly encourage you to document the housing policies that are in place that are supportive of transit. And the specifics on an approved housing element, I would need to get back to this group on. We will try to address that in our final guidelines if there's any clarification that needs to be made.
And, another question here from Hillary. How common is it that an application is awarded funding but scaled by the CalSTA team?
It is very common, in part because often applicants have asked for more funding than can be made available to a given region of the state, or they have elements of their project application that evaluate better than the application as a whole. So it is very common that applications receive some of what they ask for, but not everything.
Got another question here regarding SB 125. Can you better explain the allotment of SB 125 funds you mentioned that can be used for match funding? I thought $1 billion was to be shifted from 24-25 to 25-26.
Okay, so any SB 125 funding, regardless of the time period in which it's arriving at the RTPA and available to the agencies that would apply for this funding, can be pledged as match to the projects that you put in your applications to us in TIRCP. So even with $1 billion shift in the timing of receiving that funds, agencies can already program all 4 years of that funding and tell us how they will take the money received and spend it on projects. Some agencies have provided that programming already to us, and in some cases they have said we will make this money available for this project if it receives additional funding through a program like TIRCP or through an FTA source or some other source. So we're using this essentially as a down payment or a match to what we hope will be a successful competitive application. In other cases, agencies have already decided to do the first project development phases of a project with that SB 125 money and want our money to help complete project development and do construction or something like that. So the SB 125 money will be counted as local funding from the perspective of this evaluation because it is money that is prioritized locally by the RTPAs and the agencies that are in their service area. So I hope that addresses the question. Again, like already RTPAs can send us programming for all 4 years. If they haven't, they can modify their program to add in additional projects. And what we need, if that's going to be counted as match in a TIRCP application, is a commitment to either program that money through a future allocation action or through a future allocation package submission by the RTPA, or the actual presence of an already submitted allocation package that contains that programming.
Looks like we have some clarification here from Louise on the earlier question. If a transit authority wants to have a new technology that is not currently offered by the OEM and that technology shows benefits, can engineering development costs be included?
Yes, it can. So an example of this would be the development of the hydrogen fuel cell train that was developed for San Bernardino County for its Redlands rail service. That equipment is about to be delivered and put into service this year. And it was the first of its kind, and some of its project cost certainly included the engineering development cost of that unit.
So that's all the questions we have received up to now. We will keep the Q&A open for a little bit longer if anybody wants to throw another question in there, and then we can wrap this up. Again, this video will be on the CalSTA website later this week on the TIRCP webpage. You can also send questions, comments. Yes. Oh, and a question came in that will the slides be shared as well? Yes, that will also be on the webpage too. Slides and video. And you could also send questions or comments to the email that was up a little while ago, tricpcomments@dot.ca.gov. So seeing no other questions, we are gonna close out this webinar. Thank you all for joining us today and have a great afternoon. Thank you.